Hello everybody. The title of this episode is called Life It Up. And so it is in a sense a playful way of me saying that instead of saying live it up, life it up, and I say see that you need to engage in your sense of bringing value to things naturally and as life before life form. Before the form as life. Acknowledge yourself and then work with your form. And so the engagement has to become one of confronting realities where only certain views of a certain spectrum of polarity is being considered. You cannot just take a certain range of measurement and ignore the rest. The ability of your decision is that you can shift your reality. So any man who could make a choice could always do it from a choiceless view. And so there's a beauty in that, because that is the platform. That is how we see we are, in a sense, the beautiful ups and downs of the golden ratio. And so the design of life is very pure and, in a sense, sacred to itself, but to none other. So, for example, think of the most beautiful nature scene that you can remember or be aware of right now. And see if what you see exactly, can someone else exactly see it in the same way, exactly the same way you're standing, exactly in the same modality of how you're relating thought to object, your subjects to your objects, and your objects to your subjects. You become your own freedom because you explore the roots of your knowledge before actually looking at the different branches of knowledge. So when you look at your roots, there is a sense of natural confirmation that occurs, which you feel that you are here. You're grounded, you're present among a greater intelligence, which all comes down to the glare in your eye. As you life it up, you begin to see you're allowing yourself to engage with life and its many different realities of different sensitivity. So what that means is if you're a thug, if you're one who's always being tough, you suddenly go experience a soft reality. If you're someone being soft, you suddenly go experience a tough reality, and you see that the process is one of in a sense, I guess another play on words, a process where you can not just life it up, but in a sense lift it up as well. And see that really there is an architecture to your movement based on the architecture of your environment. And there is also an ability for you to confront things through an awareness of no thing. So when that occurs, your mind activates itself into its own sense of dissolution. So you see that there's a transformation in which certain senses of self, of your certain aspects of your internal, let's say certain dimensions of your internal being are opening up to you, and in a sense communicating to other dimensions, and so you're creating the bridge that is in a sense invisible, but only to the visible. To have a sacred moment in life could be as simple as sitting on a couch and enjoying a cup of tea or coffee. It is simply an acknowledgement of how much you can see your involvement in life. And at first you see you're involved in many lives, then you see you're not. And so, true happiness is a happiness that never happened, because once it happened, there was always a possibility for it to leave. And so it is not always out of insecurity in which we're thrown into unconscious whirlwinds of, awareness, but we are dedicated to our own sense of dedication, which comes from an innate directive command that we find is our inner inspiration and strength. So you begin seeing that the value of life is not one you can measure, because that is how vast your life is, but is one which you're always entering into. So I am always entering the next moment regardless of my thought process. My thought process is an aspect of the environment of the moment which I utilize or I acknowledge that my relationship of existence is being manifest from. But that assumption too can fade when I allow myself to experience different combinations of different probabilities of how different streams can connect to one another and have the direction and the natural direction change. So what that means is that there have been some soldiers in wars where they thought they were outnumbered. They felt they were about to die, but they were honorable and they had faith that their direction was true, and so they stood to their direction and they fought. And that what they learned to, in a sense, learn from was that your enemies may make you a hero, but a true hero is one who never has enemies. And what that means is that even though agitation in life comes in forms of opposition towards you, you do not engage in it without observance. You need to always have a sense of firm attention on how you are, what the moment is. So when you look at that, you can appreciate all angles of this bubble of presence, which we call to be our eyes opening up properly. When we life it up, we see that many of our illusions fade when we relate them to natural things, where metaphors create connections within how we are analyzing how life is made. When you analyze how life is made, you also deconstruct, or in a sense, observe very carefully how your own system was confronted. When you see your internal operating system and external operating system being relevant, but in a sense, not one that needs your immediate requirement, there's an absolute brilliance that finds a man like the gentle touch of a butterfly on one's forehead. Because you see that life has chosen you when all men have always been trying to choose life. And when life has chosen you, you have a sense of trust, you have a sense of transparency that it's not that you're, in a sense, bullshit is gone, it's that you're no longer there with it, because you have allowed it to dissolve into your own greater understanding. So what that means is that some people may get sad of, 5 minus 4 being 1. But we see that 1, I could add 110 and have 111. And so in any subtraction, we're given enough space to add an addition, to construct our clarity by detaching from any assumptions or judgments or ideas on who we need to be or what we need to do, but simply to let life show us our greatest value by, in a sense, a natural flow of allowance. It's this natural flow. We are natural beings, and the nature of intelligence is present through us. We just need to find ways where we can access more omnipresent platforms so that we are exploring our imaginative constructs by solidifying them enough to to have an experience. A lot of kids who are involved in certain psychedelic use or the use of psychedelics, you see that you clearly see why they're doing it, but you may not understand why it's necessary for them to do it or why they have been thrown. Sometimes you might not understand why one person has got so much sickness, and so you become sorry, but at other times you will understand that the reason they have sickness is because they have attracted things, because there are certain cyclical movements that they cannot ignore because they were involved in certain realities which you know nothing of. And you at first don't know nothing of because you're assuming that you know them. The moment you forget your enemy, you have found friendship with all beings. The state of man is blissful, and it requires his attention to take itself to the peak of man's creativity, in the sense that you are your own transcendence. So you see the passage of your attention from a lower sense of self or an incapable self to a capable self was never done from considering the incapable self, was to actually ignore the process of judgment and, in a sense, to see that heaven was your decision to not be in hell. Because when you make that decision, you see that you are allowing the Creator to be creative through you. So you're allowing your greatest metaphor to inspire your next act. And so we have had many people with faith cure the planet through marvelous action. And when I say faith, it is not faith in ideas, faith in the moment, faith in life. And so as you life it up, you've always confronted what has been down. What has been down, or what has carried you down, or what if you're successful in any way, it has been your lack of success that has brought you here. So when you confront dimensions of life experience, that is not went ignored. That is valuable to a collective glance, because a collective glance finds it a separate unit being able to allocate. You know how funny it is, guys? The human beings is one of those consciousnesses that is focused into form, but some consciousnesses are not focused into form, and simply they try to conceive each other into form to be able to simply communicate with one another. What that means is that I will first look at the sky before thinking that there's only the ground. I will declare no declaration that requires any sense of guilt or sin. But if the concept of sin and guilt do enter my life, I will be aware of them, and I will listen to the pattern and the synchronistic flow that life has put me to receive the lesson of the moment. There's always a lesson in a moment. Even the times you fail, sometimes they're great lessons. Actually, you will see, those people who fail have to fail to even have an ability to even be able to receive any winning. And some people are not sure about their sense of winning, and because they're insecure about their sense of winning, they speak about it constantly. So if you see a friend showing you he's the boss, that friend has no internal stability in seeing that life is so confident in its design that a lack of confidence was simply a moment of change which led to an evolution of greater ability to confront anything. Life it up, my friends, and see that at the end of ends, we can only be the beginning. Much blessings and namaste.